What up, everybody? Total Control 871. Alright, yeah, I'm doing a little night blog in here. Today I want to try a little something new. I'm basically going to just flip through some news stories here that I got on my other phone. So, record on one phone and flip through the news stories on the other phone. What I have here today is... The first story we're going to talk about is CNN's bike injuries are on the rise. Dun, dun, dun. I hope that came out the right way. Like, you guys can see it, because when I held it up to the camera, it looked backwards, so I'm guessing you'll be able to see it the right way. I hope. Okay, anyway. Talks about bike injuries being on the rise. I've already read ahead, so I won't read you a big long article. Basically what this thing is talking about is that riders that are over 45 years old are experiencing significant injuries. It even goes on to cite Secretary John Kerry's rather bad cycling injury where he broke his femur. That's a bad break. Cycling. It goes on to talk about how there is need for more infrastructure, more bicycle lanes. I'll definitely agree with all that. It's basically saying that the reason why there's an increase in cycling injuries of all age groups, but particularly over the 45 age group, is because, well, more people are doing it. People are cycling their asses off. People are definitely getting fed up with the pump, getting fed up with their fat bodies. I know I did. So, let's see. This is the part, I had to take this with a grain of salt. I was a little pissed because I just scrolled down here. I'll show it to you what it says. A bicycle is no longer a kid's toy. What do you mean, no longer? It never was a kid's toy. It's probably why we cyclists encounter so much contempt on the road. It was never a child's toy, Anyway, so... They go on to talk about how, people are definitely into more cycling, more sport cycling, which is more geared toward speed cycling. That would be people like your bike blogger and Cycle Gaz and Magnetom and, a lot of guys like that. Giving you guys a YouTube shout out. So, yeah, they want you to take care, safety measures, and all that kind of good stuff. Alright, like I say, it's on CNN. You can check it out. I'm just flipping through headlines here. I'm not getting into a deep thing. I'm sorry. All things Trump, I immediately scroll past. The only thing I will say about Donald Trump is that he is not running for president. Donald Trump may be many things, but he can't possibly be that, obtuse. He's not stupid, and he's not running for president. Donald Trump is what you call a stalking horse, meaning he has been recruited and or conspired with the GOP to be the worst representation of a Republican that you possibly can be. You might be saying, well, Total Control, why in the world would the GOP want one of its own to look bad? Simple. It's called contrast. They need Donald Trump to look absolutely horrific. Therefore, people like your Jeb Bush will be like, well, hey, Jeb's not so bad. He doesn't say any of the things that Donald Trump says, even though he pretty much believes the same thing. The only difference between Donald Trump and all the rest of his GOP contenders, Trump's been hired to say the vitriol out loud. And the others, well, they sit quiet and Well, there's a YouTube personality called Betty Bowers. Check it out on YouTube. And she basically says it. She basically says it best. Hate pretty. That's what the GOP is doing right now. They're learning to hate pretty, and to stop saying all the things that will have them in the boat that they are right now. All right, let's move on. China. China. Yeah, I think I've already said a few things about China. Basically, the world, America, we want less of their crap. We want less of their crap. We need less of their crap. Our own economy here, our own job security, our financial solvency, it is so not what it was. And as a result, people here in America, the middle class and the lower than middle class, the proletariat, we're learning count your pennies, save your shit. Don't look for anybody to save you. Do not look for the so-called job creators to create a job. They're not going to create a job. It's one of the issues that I had with these super rich corporations. They get their tax breaks. Every time you sit down and get hired, be it a Walmart, Target, wherever, you fill out your EEOC paperwork. Are you black? Are you a woman? Minority? Disabled? Are you being hired off of the welfare system? Are you currently receiving food stamps? Every time you answer yes to any of these questions, that corporation is getting a huge, mega tax break. And it is being done with a particular understanding. The federal government is saying to these corporations, if we go easy on your taxes, if we go easy on your profits, when it comes to taxing you, if you hire certain people, people that are having difficulty getting a job for whatever reason, if you hire these people, we'll go easy on your taxes, and if you pay these people a living wage, therefore, theoretically, if I'm being paid a living wage, I don't need your food stamps. So what is it, something like $4 billion? I think we spend $4 billion a year on food stamps. Am I saying it too low? Is it $4 billion or $400 billion? All I know is that it's a fuckload of money that we pay for food stamps, the food stamp program. Pay a living wage, then you can slash that like crazy. But yeah, so, we here in America, we want less of America's crap. China's crap, and therefore China doesn't produce, and, well, the domino effect, I think you can pretty much figure that out. Okay, let's move on. Burger King pushes merger. Poor Burger King. One of the American staples that's been circling the drain for a while now. Burger King, Sprint, Sears. It's not looking good for them. It's not looking good at all. They're definitely circling the drain there. I don't think they'll be in business in the next 5 years. So there you go. Let's see what else we got going on here in the news. Brain-eating amoeba kills a 14. Okay, so these so-called brain-eating amoebas that are supposedly super duper rare, they sure have been a bit more common as of late. I'm almost certain that can be traced back to ecological impacts that we're having with our world. And well, what can I say? Go buy your nose plugs. I think 99-cent nose plugs is definitely worth your fucking brain. Brains! Reminds me of the old 1984. Living Dead movie. People talking about the blood moon we had a couple days ago. What else? What else is going on in the world? Let's try jumping over. Change websites here. Oh yeah. Let's talk a little bit about let's talk about dead cops. How about that? We have our sheriff who was gunned down execution style, filling up his vehicle. And just as the public outpouring of sympathy was just starting to reach a good stride, boom, out comes the next unarmed minority shooting. I'm telling you people, this shit is starting to get tit for tat. It really is. I have not seen the second video. I'll say this: they're calling it troubling for a reason. You know, let's just use our fucking brains, all right, people. This shit is basically going to end up showing this man with his hands stuck up in the air. You know, he may have been holding a knife. He may have been, but the point is that he was standing, hands up. And he may have been refusing, because we don't got the audio, he may have been refusing to drop the knife. So he may have been refusing those orders. If that is indeed the case, I don't think shooting him is the correct course of action. You have a suspect that is, you know, they're at a safe distance from you. It's a knife, not a gun. What? You say you don't know if he has a gun? He didn't have a shirt on. And he had like those were drawstring type nylon basketball type shorts that he was wearing. You know, I got a pair myself similar. And you really can't hold a gun there, you know, without it being seen anyway. Especially, I mean, the guy, he had a fat belly. You're not going to be able to hold a gun in that kind of a short without it either being seen or without it falling, either, you know, falling through the shorts, you know, or falling outside of the shorts, you know. They gunned him down. They gunned him down probably because he was refusing to drop the knife. I don't know if I will say, you know, race necessarily played a factor. Even when it's, because I think he's a Latino, I'm not even entirely sure when they shoot and kill black people if it's necessarily a race thing. They definitely have become accustomed to when you shoot and kill minorities, there's not that big of a backlash, so they might be much more inclined to do it. These shootings, man, they're back to back. This man, he was not complying. He was not complying. He was probably also in a mental fugue, you know, suffering some sort of a psychotic episode. And I will say this. People who are suffering psychotic episodes, especially people who are holding weapons while having a psychotic episode, they are indeed dangerous and should be treated as dangerous. But you do go to a police academy for a particular reason. What I would say to law enforcement, which I am here tonight, if you want to be able to just simply justify shooting a person just because they're holding a knife, shoot them. Well, you know what? Pretty much any of us can do that. Why do we send you to an academy? Why does oh good God, millions of dollars? Why is millions of dollars spent on your training while in this academy? You know, the entire class that you're in. How much money is spent training you to deal with these kinds of situations. Just for you to throw it all out the window and be like, he's got a knife, shoot him. The tasers did not reach his body. Step closer and try again. That's all I can really tell you, you know. Step closer. You got your shield in case he throws the knife, you know. Step closer, try again. It could be averted. It's probably why the second video is being withheld for so long, because they know it could have been averted. Of course, we also have poor his last name is really long. I'm not even going to try and butcher it. I think he says that his nickname was G.I. Joe, so I'll just call him Lieutenant Joe, the police officer that was shot and killed near Chicago, Illinois, some part of Illinois. Let me see. What am I going to say about this particular shooting? It's becoming increasingly difficult for me to feel sympathy for a lot of law enforcement. You know, before I even talk about Lieutenant Joe, I want to talk about the detective. I think he was a detective, I'm not sure. That was assaulted and pistol whipped with his own weapon. Left bloodied and battered, face down on the street, on the sidewalk or wherever. When I heard about it, needless to say, with all of my issues with police, I went looking for this image. I found it, and then I wanted to see the image unpixelated. I wanted to see this detective's, this law enforcement officer's face, and it didn't take too long. I found an unpixelated version of it. I did not take any particular joy when I saw it, and then I became upset with myself for not taking delight in seeing this man who had been beaten unconscious and so gravely injured with his own weapon. I wanted to take joy in that, but I could not. The only reasons I can really come up with is that probably, well, I guess there is some shred of me that's still human. I guess some logic banks inside my head are still functioning. This man, he did not hurt me. Doesn't even know my name, doesn't know my face, doesn't know my circumstances. And looking at him, you know, in that picture, there's nothing that's really titillating about it. If anything, it was just sad. It was just really sad. And I was upset with myself for wanting to like it and not liking it. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, getting back to Lieutenant Joe, I really wasn't connecting with, you know, his news coverage. You know, I'm reading it, you know, oh, family man, the usual shit. You know, I really didn't care that he was a family man. For all I know, and this is just my speculation, pure speculation. You know, why were you pursuing these people? You said suspicious. Why are they suspicious? You know, was this just simply a stop and frisk? You know, were you shot and killed by, you know, because you were, well, technically violating somebody's constitutional rights with an impromptu stop and frisk? Or maybe these three individuals were exhibiting suspicious behavior and they did warrant a stop. You know, that's probably something we're never going to know. Speaking of never going to know, I don't think we are going to catch the three suspects that killed Lieutenant Joe. I haven't really read what those descriptions were that he gave out over the radio, but if you're chasing somebody and you got three individuals that you are trying to give a rundown on, you're not exactly going to be there, you know, giving very, very detailed information over the radio. You know, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. So most likely all these people, all these three individuals had to do was probably just stop running, calm down, you know, get some paper towel, dry off your face, don't look like you've been running, and yeah, man, just go to the local bus stop, you know, catch something that's moving, a taxi, and just disappear. You'll probably never catch them, and his murder will probably go unsolved. I'm sorry to say that, but now that doesn't mean that they're not going to make an arrest. You know, law enforcement have a long track record of making an arrest when one of their own has been shot and killed. They will bend the law. They will play dirty because they don't want it, you know, going down in the records. They don't want the public thinking that, you know, you can just shoot and kill us and walk away, you know, sashay away like fucking Rude Paul or something. So yeah, I would not put it past them to drag three, you know, one, two, or three innocent individuals who may have been in the wrong place, wrong time, vaguely fitting a description. So, like I say, these cops, they're playing dirty. Have been for a long time. America's just now starting to wake up to it and getting sick of it. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably about all I really talk about as far as news headlines go. I don't want the video to get too long. Oh, that's where I was going. I knew it was something I wanted to say about Lieutenant Joe. I wasn't connecting with his story until I read that he was a few days away from retiring. And then his chief, his captain, you know, whatever it was, I believe it was a chief, implored him to stay on just one more month. One more month. Now, I can only imagine the grief that that police chief must be going through right now, having implored this this dedicated law officer into staying on just one more month. But as a working man myself,